Hi friends, and welcome back to today's podcast. So today I want to go over the three main things that the pill, or really any hormonal contraception for that matter, does to a woman's body. Because so many women are put on the pill for a lot of different reasons now, right? Like you could have irregular periods, you could have really painful periods, you could even have acne, and the same pill is given among all of those other symptoms that you may be taking the pill for. However, the pill, no matter what you're taking it for, whether it be for a medical reason or if it's for actual birth control, it's doing the same things to your body. Okay, and so these are going to be three main things that the pill does to work as really a contraceptive. But even if you're not using it for contraceptive purposes, let's say that you are not sexually active and you are just using it for medical purposes, the pill is still doing the exact same thing in your body. And oftentimes when doctors prescribe this medication, this pill, they're not telling you these three things. They're not telling you exactly how it's working, right? And so really what the pill is doing is it's changing the way that your hormones should be working in your body. A woman's reproductive cycle, her hormones throughout the cycle are an ebb and flow. They're not supposed to be just going straight across, okay? They should be going up and down depending on what time of the cycle you are at. And what the pill, or really, again, any other hormonal contraception does, is it kind of flatlines those hormones. It's giving you, it's not allowing your body to have that natural ebb and flow of hormones that it should be having throughout the cycle. And so even if you do have a hormonal imbalance that's causing irregular periods, that's causing painful periods or acne or whatever it is, right? The pill isn't actually fixing it. It could be masking the symptoms for sure. It could be helping those symptoms that you're experiencing, but it's not actually getting to the root cause of what is going on and actually treating it. All it's doing is really flatlining those hormones and not allowing them to even work as they should, right? So as I said, there are three main things that the pill, and just so you know, throughout this podcast, I'm going to be saying the pill, but really when I say the pill, I mean any hormonal contraceptive. So that goes for a hormonal IUD, so the Mirena IUD. It goes for Nexplanon, which is like an implant that goes in your arm. It goes for the Depo-Provera shot. It really just goes for any sort of hormonal contraception. These are the three main modes of action that the pill or any other hormonal contraception uses to change your hormones, to change your body, to sometimes, yes, mask those symptoms. But again, it's not getting to the root of what is causing whatever hormonal imbalance you have. And if you are even using the pill just for contraceptive matters, this is how the pill is working in your body to make that possible. And I think you're going to be surprised by what I'm about to tell you and hopefully change your mind. So, okay, without further ado, let's get into it. So the first mode of action that the pill does in any woman, no matter the reason that you are taking it, is that it suppresses ovulation, okay? So ovulation is when an egg is released from your ovary. For a healthy cycling woman, this should happen every month or one time every cycle. Every menstrual cycle, every woman should be ovulating one time, okay? And so when an egg is released from the ovary, that egg is usually viable to be fertilized, and that is a brand new human life, okay? Conception begins at that moment of the sperm and the egg coming together. So when there is an egg, then there's a possible pregnancy. So the first thing that the pill does is it suppresses ovulation. So those hormones that should be producing ovulation are then shut down. They are not allowed to move as they should in order to come up with this effect we call ovulation, right? So it suppresses your ovulation so that if there's no egg, there's no baby. And again, remember that this is the mode of action no matter the reason you are taking the pill, okay? So for women on the pill for birth control reasons, yeah, this is the first mode of action for that contraceptive purpose. Now, remember, for women that are taking it for medical reasons, right? With anything else in medicine, we want to look at, okay, what is wrong? Like what's going on with the body that's wrong, that needs to be fixed, that needs to be healed, and let's heal it, right? Let's get to the root of it. Let's heal it. But instead, what the pill is doing is it's suppressing ovulation. So not only is it not healing whatever you're on the pill for, but it's also causing you to have a suppressed ovulation. So not even ovulating at all, which is the main event of your whole reproductive cycle. So it's just shutting yet another thing down, okay? So that is the first mode of action, is that the pill suppresses ovulation. Now, the second mode of action is that the pill will cause all of your, I'm going to say it, cervical mucus. It's going to cause all of your cervical mucus to dry up. I'm going to be talking a lot about cervical mucus on this podcast. It just is, okay? It is super, super important for your fertility. Another word for it is discharge. That may be a little less icky for you, but I'm going to say cervical mucus because that's what it is. So it dries up all of your cervical mucus, and cervical mucus is essential for pregnancy to occur, okay? Sperm love cervical mucus. I bet that is not a phrase you thought you would hear today, but it is true. Sperm love cervical mucus. And so sperm need cervical mucus in order to be transported to the egg, okay? Cervical mucus is produced within your cervix, which is right above your vaginal canal. So if there's no mucus within the cervix, the sperm cannot usually travel through the cervix fast enough before they die to get to the egg, okay? So moral of the story, if there's no cervical mucus, or if it's all dried up due to the pill, most likely sperm are not going to be able to travel far enough within the woman's reproductive system, or to even live long enough to meet an egg that might be there. So basically what's going on is that if the first mode of action, which I mentioned earlier, which was suppressing ovulation, if that fails, because it will fail, because no form of hormonal or any method, even a natural method of family planning, no method of family planning is 100% effective in avoiding pregnancy except for abstinence. Okay, let's just get that out there. No method is 100% effective. That means that there will be pregnancies, or that could be pregnancies that occur when you are using some sort of method to plan your family while you are still having intercourse, okay? So if ovulation occurs, we call this a breakthrough ovulation when you ovulate while you're on some sort of hormonal contraception, okay? A breakthrough ovulation happens, which means you have a viable egg. Now, however, if sperm can't get to that egg, then you still don't have a pregnancy. So that's where that second mode of action comes in, where if the sperm can't live long enough to meet the egg, or if it can't actually travel through far enough to meet the egg, then no pregnancy will occur. Cervical mucus has sugars within it that keep the sperm alive. It's actually been researched that the longest amount of time that sperm can live without cervical mucus is up to 2 hours. With cervical mucus, sperm can live up to, wait for it, 5 days, okay? So we are talking a difference between 2 hour length of life versus 5 days length of life, okay? That is the difference of cervical mucus with sperm, okay? Sperm loves cervical mucus. So with an active intercourse, let's say, just for an example, let's say a woman has intercourse on a Monday and she's abstinent the rest of the week. Well, from that intercourse on Monday, the sperm from that active intercourse could literally live inside of her body if she is producing good cervical mucus, okay? That sperm live within her cervix up to, let's say, for example, she ovulates on Thursday, okay? So no egg on Monday, but she does have intercourse. Sperm from that active intercourse is living within her body, within that cervical mucus. That sperm from Monday could live up to Thursday when she does actually ovulate, and that egg that's released on Thursday could meet the sperm that has been living within her body, living within her cervical mucus from Monday, okay? That is how important cervical mucus is for pregnancy, okay? Super, super important. So if a woman is not producing cervical mucus, that means there is something wrong. There is something that needs to be healed. There's something that needs to be fixed. Normal hormone balance. Estrogen, in particular, estrogen is the hormone that produces that cervical mucus. So if a woman isn't naturally producing that cervical mucus, that usually means that there's something going on that needs to be healed, that needs to be treated, okay? So once again, with the pill is causing that cervical mucus to dry up. So especially if you are taking it for medical reasons, not only then is it not helping whatever medical purpose you're on it for, but it's also suppressing your ovulation, which should be happening every month, and it's also drying up your cervical mucus, which you should be seeing at least sometimes in some parts of your cycle, okay? So we've already seen here in the first two modes of action with the pill that it's not helping anything, okay? Now, third mode of action. So what happens when you have a breakthrough ovulation, okay? What happens when you have a breakthrough ovulation? So ovulation actually does occur even when you're taking the pill. And let's say the second mode of action fails. Let's say that it didn't dry up your your cervical mucus enough to keep the sperm out or to make sure they die before they reach an egg, okay? What happens, basically what I'm saying is what happens when conception occurs? You have a viable egg that's released and the sperm has been able to make its way to that egg. And by the way, just to give you a visual, so you have two ovaries on either side, and then connected to the ovaries are those fallopian tubes, okay? And so the fallopian tubes then are connected from both ovaries, and they connect then to the uterus, okay? And the uterus is about the size of a small pear. It's kind of like the shape of a small inverted pear, okay? So when conception occurs, conception is going to occur in the outer third of the fallopian tube. So that means the part of the fallopian tube that's closer to the ovary. And so when conception occurs, that egg and sperm come together, it makes a brand new human life at that moment of fertilization. That new life has its very own DNA that is completely separate from the mother, okay? We know this to be a brand new human life. Now, that life takes about 7 to 10 days to travel from that outer third of the fallopian tube and implant into the uterus, okay? And where this new life implants is called the endometrium. And that is just a super fancy word for the uterine lining. So when a woman is cycling every month, every cycle, this endometrium or this uterine lining is going to replenish itself. And the way it does that is it's a bunch of blood cells, okay? So this blood cells, this lining of blood cells around the uterus, around the inside of the uterus, will thicken throughout the cycle, throughout the month. When your body, if you're not pregnant and your body recognizes, okay, I'm not pregnant, I don't need this uterine lining anymore, that uterine lining will shed, and that's what your next period is, okay? That bleeding is your endometrium. It's your uterine lining that's being shed. Now, if your body recognizes that it is pregnant, it says, ooh, okay, I need to hang on to this uterine lining because this is where that new life is going to implant and continue to grow and receive nutrients from, okay? So then what happens with that third mode of action that the pill does is it thins the uterine lining, okay? It thins the endometrium so that if a new life is conceived, and again, that's in the outer third of the fallopian tube, in 7 to 10 days it takes to travel from the outer third of the fallopian tube into the uterus, that new life will have nowhere to implant. And unfortunately, that new life will die. If this has not been told to you, I am so sorry on behalf of any and all doctors that you have seen. It is a complete injustice that this is not taught to women. There are women that are taking the pill, that have an IUD, that take the Depo-Provera shot, that all of these hormonal contraceptives, and they are not told that conception can occur and they may have no idea that a new life was created within their womb. They have no idea. And they may never know, because that life cannot find its place to implant and will die. And they will never know. So on behalf of all doctors and just everybody representing the medical system, I want to tell you that I'm sorry if this is the first time that you've heard this. But I also want to tell you how grateful I am that you are hearing this, because this information cannot be silenced anymore. This is how hormonal contraception acts as what we call an abortifacient. Okay? I know this is really heavy stuff. And so I want you to take a deep breath right now. If you're hearing this for the first time, I want you to know that you are seen and that you are loved and that there's been an injustice done to you that needs to be righted. So, with that said, I don't want to just leave you in this downer place, okay? Let's kind of lift back up and let's talk about, okay, well, if you're hearing these 3 modes of action, which again is suppressing ovulation, then is drying up the cervical mucus, and then lastly, if those 2 fail, the pill will thin out that endometrium. Okay, those are those 3 modes of action. Well, let's say you are on the pill for whatever, let's just give an example. Let's say you're on the pill for irregular periods, okay? You're not normally, off the pill, you don't normally have a period every month like you think you should, and which you probably should, but you've been told that the only way to regulate that cycle is the pill. I'm here to tell you that that is not the only option. Praise be to God, that's not the only option, okay? Because the 3 things that I just said and the way that the pill works, you do not deserve that for your body. That is not healing anything. It is putting a Band-Aid on your symptoms, and it is a complete injustice to you and everybody else who is on the pill and who doesn't know that it works like that. Okay. What is the other option? Well, the other option is what I call, or not just I, but what is called NAPRO technology. Okay, I will do a whole other episode on NAPRO technology. Actually, I'm planning out a few because it's such a big topic, but it's short for natural procreative technology. And so what this does is it's a form of women's health medicine, or it's a form of women's health science that really takes a look at the root cause of what is going on with your irregular periods, just to give that example again, okay? So if you go to a doctor that practices NAPRO technology, they are not going to prescribe you the pill. What they are going to do is they're probably going to do some blood work. They may do an ultrasound, and they may actually have you start charting your cycle. That was my story. I have a podcast. It's actually episode 1 of my podcast explaining my story and how I was healed from my PCOS. You can go and listen to that later. But basically what's going to happen is if you visit a doctor who practices NAPRO technology, they're going to actually try to diagnose you with whatever is causing the symptom of irregular periods. Okay, so they're going to really try to get to the root cause of what's going on and then heal it from the ground up. And so that might be a diet change, that might be medication, that might even be surgery, depending on the severity and your quality of life and so on and so forth. But there is another option, okay? So many women are put on the pill when they are 16 years old because they have irregular cycles, and then they try to get pregnant later on in life, and they've been on the pill for 10, 15 years, and they can't get pregnant, and they wonder why, and it's because we've never gotten to the root cause of what is causing your irregular periods. What is causing your intense pain throughout your cycle? What is causing whatever it is? Fill in the blank, right? I want you to find the root cause. I want you to have a true diagnosis and be able to get proper treatment from the ground up so that you don't have to be on the pill for forever and ever and ever just to hide these symptoms. No, I want you to be treated from the ground up. I want you to be treated from the root. Okay. And so that is what NaPro technology is going to do. I will put a link in the show notes below to a website called FertilityCare.org. I am 99% sure it is .org, but look in the show notes just in case. So FertilityCare.org. I will put that link in the show notes. And basically what you can do at that website is you can put in your zip code and it'll come up with a bunch of people in and around your area that either teach women and couples how to chart their cycles. Because like I said, sometimes a doctor who practices NaPro technology will want you to start charting your cycles so they can actually see what your hormones are doing. And you can see that when you are tracking your cycle. So there are instructors that can teach you how to do that. And just by the way, it is not just checking on when your period is. It is looking way more in depth. You're looking at cervical mucus. You're looking at all that good stuff. So you really need an instructor to help you navigate that. So you can look at that website and see if there's any in your area. I also, side tangent really quick, I have a business where I also teach women how to chart. I teach women how to chart specifically what's called the Creighton model system. That is just a fancy term for the method of natural family planning or fertility charting that I teach. You are welcome to also go to truthandfertility.com and book a free 20-minute call with me to figure out what this whole process is, how to get started with it, and see if we would be a good fit. So I would love for you to check that out as well if you do want to start charting your cycle and to figure out a different option than just what your doctor is prescribing you, which is probably the pill. So anyways, back to my fertilitycare.org. It'll show you instructors in your area, but then it will also show you doctors in your area, if there are any, that also practice NaPro technology, okay? And a lot of times too, if you can't find a doctor in your area that practices NaPro technology, you can find a virtual telehealth, telemedicine doctor or whatever that can also practice it and that can also be there to help you with that. So anyways, again, I will do a whole other plethora of podcasts on NaPro technology. This was just barely skimming the surface of what that is, but that is the option. That is the other option, because I don't just want to give you this doom and gloom news about the pill and not give you any other options. That's not just either, right? So I want you to have better options. So take a look at fertilitycare.org, find a good doctor, find an instructor. You can work with me too, FYI, again, truthandfertility.com. I would love to meet you and chat with you and see if we'd be a good fit. And yeah, that is the answer. Okay. So I want to end this episode on a very light and hopeful note, because that first part, the 3 modes of action of the pill, are no good. It puts everybody in a downer mood, right? It's an injustice. But the good news is that there is hope. There is another option, and I want that other option. I want that better option for you. So again, look at those links in the show notes below. Please, if you could give this episode a 5-star rating and leave a review, that helps me tremendously as well. Thank you guys so much for sticking around, and I will talk to you again next week.